You might be saying to yourself, okay, why is there a Canucks game on a Sunday against Vegas of all teams that's starting at like 4 p.m.? Well, it's because the NHL is competing with WrestleMania today. It is day 2 of that event, so there's a whole bunch of festivities going on, plus the actual matches, etc., etc. Yeah, okay, the NHL's gonna go out there and try to do that. They always do this, you know? I know most of these games have been rescheduled because they were cancelled earlier on in the year, but like, you talk about the Super Bowl, you talk about big events, you talk about WrestleMania, NHL's always going out there and competing against these events, and it's not really the best situation in the world, if you ask me. But either way, today I wanted to go over a defenseman that's been having a pretty good time in the Florida Panthers system. This is a guy that honestly could be defined as Jim Benning's biggest mistake. And I know, you might go out there and say, Lego, you're always trying to dunk on Benning. What are you trying to do, man? Stop pushing this narrative that he was a terrible GM. Yeah, I think we can all agree there's a reason Jim Benning got canned. He probably should have gotten canned earlier, and looking at it today, there were so many decisions the guy made that we can review and say, okay, what the hell was that? Look at how this turned out, eh? Pretty bad. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and it's a great tool we can use to review what should have gone down versus what has gone down. So, today we're going over to the Florida Panthers and talking about defenseman Gustav Forsling. He is a pretty interesting player, because at 25 years old, he's making $2.6 million a year till the end of the 2024 season. This contract was signed by the Florida Panthers, and it's a pretty interesting situation because the Panthers acquired this guy off of waivers from the Carolina Hurricanes in January of 2021. Immediately after getting claimed, he played for the Florida Panthers last season, had 17 points in 43 games played, and then he signed that contract extension. This year, he's got 29 points in 59 games for the Florida Panthers, including 5 goals. One of those was the overtime winner against the Devils. That game also saw him get a second goal that was not in overtime. And so, with the amount of production that he has, and with the stability he provides the Florida Blue Line, plus just the age and the contract, etc., I think it's fair to say that Gustav Forsling is a good NHL quality defenseman. Well, let's go back to the beginning and take a look at where this guy actually came from and how Jim Benning plays into this entire conversation. So, lo and behold, I think a lot of you already know that Gustav Forsling was actually drafted by the Vancouver Canucks in the 2014 NHL Entry Draft. He was taken 126th overall, so he was a 5th-round pick, and you don't usually see 5th-round picks becoming anything of substance at the NHL level. And so for Jim Benning and co., this was a guy that they took, that they apparently liked very much and just said, yeah, he could be an interesting player, an interesting project down the line. So let's take him. He played in the Swedish Junior League. He had 18 points in 44 games played. Not the most impressive showcase in the world, but still a guy that was worthy of getting drafted. And the year after getting acquired by Vancouver in the draft, there was already some significant progress made with his development. You see, he made the SHL right away, and he was a pretty stable defender in that league, getting 6 points on the year, and also being a point-per-game player at the World Juniors that season. There was a pretty significant amount of hype for Forsling, especially as a 5th-round pick, because you don't usually see guys actually make this big of a jump immediately after getting drafted. It's just, for Jim Benning, rather than seeing Forsling as a developmental piece, a prospect for the future, he saw Forsling instead as a trade chip. Because in the midst of that 2015 season where Forsling had the World Junior performance and he was doing well in the SHL, on January 29, 2015, the Canucks traded away Gustav Forsling to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Adam Clendening. That's it. Now, Adam Clendening for Vancouver was not really anything. He played a little bit here and there. He had a stint in the Utica Comet system, but just in general, what Benning was trying to do with this trade, Forsling for Clendening, was advance time a little bit quicker. He would do this by trading away a guy in Forsling who was 18 in exchange for Clendening, who at the time was 22. The idea was that he would showcase all the AHL potential he had at a grander stage in Vancouver and actually play on a team that was looking to make the playoffs. They did that year, by the way, and be a potential depth option should anybody else on the blue line go out on injuries, therefore showcasing his NHL upside in Vancouver. It didn't work out because in July of that same year, the Canucks traded away Clendening to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the trade that was known as the Brandon Sutter trade. Yeah, there was Beniers, there was Clendening, there was a whole bunch of other stuff there. Brandon Sutter is what the Canucks got back. Meanwhile, you go back over to Forsling and you see what he did in Chicago. Forsling spent another season in the SHL where he was a half a point a game defenseman. Then he went over to Chicago and swapped around between that system and the Rockford Ice Hog system. He was an okay defenseman. Sure, he didn't produce the lights out, but he's a 5th round pick playing in the NHL 3 seasons after getting drafted. That's not bad in the slightest. Eventually, he was traded over to Carolina in the Anton Forsberg trade, and it was kind of interesting seeing Forsling and Forsberg both go over to the Hurricanes in that same move. I believe it was DeHaan and Sarala that were coming back the other way for Chicago, but in the 2019-20 season, Forsling didn't do anything at the NHL level. He played only in the AHL for the Charlotte Checkers, the Carolina Hurricanes farm team. He had 26 points in 57 games played, and as we said, unfortunately, 0 NHL games in that year. And so, heading into the Florida system to start off 2021 after getting claimed off of waivers, and yeah, by the way, he was placed onto waivers, and based off of the waiver wire order, it appears that no other team actually put a claim in for this guy, aside from the Florida Panthers, because, look, the Panthers are a good team. They've always been in the bottom of the waiver wire order this entire time, and so for him to ultimately go to Florida at the end of this entire waiver thing, it means that there were a whole bunch of teams that said, no, sorry, we're not going to get this guy for free. As we said, he was on a sub-$1 million contract at the time, and immediately with the Panthers, he impressed. 17 points, 43 games played. He was good enough to get that $2-point-something million extension, and now he's on pace for 36 points over 73 games played. Do the math over 82 games right here, 29, divvy 59, multiplied out by 82. Hey, the guy is barely on pace for 40 points in an NHL season, making $2 million. Okay, $2.6 million, but you get the point. This guy is also 25 years old. He is in the smack dab middle of his prime. He is a 40-point defenseman making under $3 million. That's more production than OEL, Tyler Myers. It's better than everybody on the Vancouver Canucks. Spare Quinn Hughes, of all people. And the Canucks had this guy in their grasps. They had him for a bit, but they traded him for Clendening, a guy that they didn't even really use at the NHL level too much anyway. And then you follow the Clendening trade tree all the way to Brandon Sutter, a guy that didn't really do too much for the Canucks this season because he had been dealing with prolonged side effects of the virus. But all the way down there in Sunrise, Florida, you have yourselves a Vancouver Canucks former prospect who has turned into an absolute stud on that blue line at a reasonably cheap cap hit as well. Sucks to see, doesn't it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire video idea. If you are a Florida Panthers fan, hey, what can you tell me about Gustav Forsling that we have not discussed in this video yet? Do you like the way he plays the game? Have you been surprised with how he has transitioned into the NHL after playing only AHL hockey in 2019-20? Are you excited to see the next few years of Forsling? Because, I mean, he's got 2 more seasons on his contract after this year, so there certainly is a lot more time for you to get accustomed to him if you're not already familiar with his services. Also, if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan, do you think the Canucks have it in them to get another player like this? Because he was a 5th-round pick that became a 40-point NHL defenseman. I'm personally not too sure on what we have in store just yet because we haven't seen Patrick Allvin and Rutherford handle themselves a Canucks NHL Entry Draft just yet. But, of course, I think everybody's kind of paying attention to the draft for other managerial things, not because necessarily of the players they'll draft, but because of the trades they're going to make. So let me know in the comments all your thoughts about Gustav Forsling and his dominance in the Florida Panthers system. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.